Beta Aesthetics 3.0. I wanted to cover something different for the final episode of this series, something that doesn't take the usual route of creating a mod from scratch or leaked beta maps, but rather changes the retail game into something else. The Beta Aesthetic series of mods are recent. As far as I know, they were created by Benedict Casputin 42, and from what I can see on the Game Banana page, there's quite a few people who worked on this mod, along with contributions from well-known modders in the Half-Life community. As the name implies, the mod changes the look and feel of Half-Life 2 to resemble that of the concept art and maps that we've already seen. Its main goal is to turn the retail game into this dark and gritty one. But the question is, does it accomplish its goal? I streamed the 2.0 version of this mod a few months ago and I was quite impressed, and with this one, furthermore, yes, for a short answer, it does somewhat achieves its goal. Think of this mod as a skin changing mod, but increase the scope of it tenfold. Every texture, model, sound and music track has been changed to make it more closer to the beta style. What it doesn't do is change the maps or gameplay, so at the end, it creates this mashup, giving you the best of both worlds. If you're a beta fan, that is. Yes, this is the same Half-Life 2, but it looks different. Now I won't be doing all praise, as I do have some feedback for some of the visuals, but more on that later. Starting off with the G-Man intro, I think the mod uses UberDuck or some other sort of artificial intelligence to recreate the audio.
Gordon Freeman, I do believe we've kept you waiting long enough. 10 years, Mr. Freeman. It won't seem that way to you, but 10 years is a long time. Long enough for humanity to swallow its pride and begin to accept its common fate.
It does have some hiccups, but G-Man sounds good for the most part, and it certainly is a sight to see him say the original cut monologue. From what I can understand, this whole intro lines are from Mark Laidlaw's vignettes. I'll leave a link to them, by the way, in the description. I do recommend that you read them. Good stuff. Then as soon as you're in the train, the different atmosphere and look of the game is very clear. The citizens look different, the world looks dark, and you'll notice how the sound effects have been changed as well. Then there's the console. He uses the same lines as Dr. Breen, but the pitch has been shifted to make him sound more sinister.
Chosen or been chosen to relocate to one of our finest remaining urban centers. I thought so much of City 17 that I elected to establish my administration here in the citadel so thoughtfully provided by our benefactors.
What I appreciated was the use of Half-Life 1 sound effects. It further adds to the illusion of this being quote-unquote Half-Life 2 beta. And that's the thing, this mod instills such an illusion that you enjoy looking at, but at some point or another, the illusion tends to weaken. Speaking of sound effects, the changed music is another great choice. This mod uses Chris Jensen's Mishap in the Chamber Reactor album tracks. Chris Jensen, if you didn't know, made the music for Opposing Force, which would also be used in Blue Shift, and for some Counter-Strike games and some trailers for Valve games. That whole album is a collection of these tracks, and I highly suggest that you give it a listen. It's also good stuff. Something off topic, but that album's track 62 is what inspired me to make Unexplained Hazards. Here's a quick comparison. Anyway, the tracks used in the mod do suit what's happening on screen, especially when you're being chased in both the city and the canals. It gives the game a sort of a different vibe. Now, I love Kelly Bailey's work, but this music also sounds great as an alternative. Let's talk about the textures. Yes, this mod uses beta textures from what I can see, but something that hinders the illusion is the architecture. I know the mod or the modders did not change the maps themselves in terms of the geometry, but I think if this ever gets updated or gets a new edition, I'd highly suggest that making some changes to the maps would be beneficial. For example, modify the houses or buildings that show European influence in their architecture. This right here is fine, but I'm just sharing what I think can make this better. Another part of my feedback is that they should definitely change up the environment lighting a little. You know, in every map there is an environment light which does what the name says. It establishes what type of or what kind of lighting will light up the world. I'd suggest maybe lowering the brightness or maybe change the color a little, see what works best. I do, however, like this part of the water hazard chapter, but in most places the lighting does tend to look a little off. Speaking of lighting, this mod uses reshade. Now, if you didn't know, reshade is a post-processing injector that enables visual effects in games that the game itself does not support natively. Here, I noticed that reshade changes the tone of what the player sees. You'll see that there's a high influence of yellow in City 17, and how the contrast is dialed up quite a lot. Even on medium brightness, something that the mod suggested, I still felt that the highlights hitting in some places is kind of irritating. Source itself can use tone mapping, so my suggestion would be to ditch reshade altogether and maybe try the tone map controller to change the visuals in regards of the color and brightness or contrast. This issue of mine is most apparent in the Highway 17 chapter, where the sand texture used is natively bright, and when paired together with what reshade's doing, it further brightens it. Also, you might have noticed how the skybox looks great. I know it's low resolution, but I still love it. But the mismatch between that sand texture, which is in a lot of places, puts off the effect of the skybox trying to portray. But that's all the feedback I had to give, at least the negative one. Now back to the good stuff. So the mod uses beta weapons instead of the retail ones. Some are new and some look different. For example, I think the pistol and the shotgun are taken straight out of the leaked version or the beta of Half-Life 2. The revolver is of unknown origin because I don't remember seeing it in the beta or leaked version. The almighty and glorious MP5K is here instead of the MP7, and the OICW replaces the AR2. Then there's the sniper, which replaces the crossbow, and so on and so forth. The sound effects are great, and these weapons are fun to use while in combat, especially the MP5K. On to the characters. The Metro Cops are now rocking a trench coat, which is my personal favorite design. They look great, and so does everyone's sweetheart, Barney Calhoun. And yes, this is in fact the beta model of Barney, not the retail one modified. Then we meet Alex Vance, who I should say looks great, but her lipstick is a bit too much, or maybe that's just reshade making it too strong looking. I don't know. Same with Mossman, by the way. Dr. Kleiner surprisingly uses the cut Dr. Court model. Not a big fan of this change, honestly, but I guess it works. Eli is okay, and then there's the quote-unquote console. Now, that's an all-original model, and it seems oddly familiar. I'm not sure where I've seen it before, maybe in some mod or something. But if you do know, comment down below, and yeah. But the model changes are good. Civilians are wearing something out of the 2003 or 2002 era designs, and watching them blend into this new-looking City 17 does refreshen the experience a little. So after City 17, there's the Red Letter Day and Root Canal chapters, all good. Again, it feels like a fresh coat of paint. Water Hazard felt a little jarring in some places because of the overtly bright textures or lighting. The part where time has shifted forward and the sun is setting, those sections were nice though. Black Mesa East doesn't change a lot, apart from the character models. But then again, I try to block out any memory of Black Mesa East that I have, so I don't know about this chapter. Nothing much to say here. Ravenholm though. Now, Ravenholm's starting area looked way different than what I was expecting. Much more desolate, in my opinion. Maybe because of the lack of vegetation. The rest of it was fine. New models on the zombies and the cars and all that good jazz. It looked great. Highway 17, like Water Hazard, looked kinda bright, but I liked the overall mood of it. And that's where I stopped playing the mod. Overall, this is a great way to re-experience Half-Life 2 with a new coat of paint. Really nice idea that's executed very nicely. I like the approach of modifying the original game to resemble the beta aesthetic, and that's great. And honestly, I would love to see another version of beta aesthetic, beta aesthetic 4.0, and see how much further they can improve this idea. I hope you enjoyed this video and this series. Granted, I was a little late on making and uploading the videos, but in the end, it turned out all fine. We looked at some really good stuff, and I'm anticipating great stuff coming out of projects like Dark Interval and Raising the Bar Redux. I can say with confidence that the beta dream is alive and well, and one day, we'll be going through the original beta storyline from start to finish. One day. It feels good to be back. See you soon, and thank you for watching.